Hi everybody and welcome to the Helen Winder Show. I'm Helen Winder and my guest today is Emmy Yeadon, Transformational Coach. Hello Emmy, thank you so much for joining me.
Hi Helen, thank you so much for asking me. It's great to be with you today.
You're welcome. Now tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you, where you come from, and what your business is.
Okay, so my name's Emmy Yeadon and I work from Leeds in Yorkshire. I'm a transformational coach and I have come to transformational coaching by quite a long and interesting route. But at the moment I'm working with lots of schools, lots of leadership teams, lots of head teachers and leaders of charities and other corporate organisations, and I'm just loving it at the minute. I'm having a great time.
Fantastic. Do you work on your own, or do you have associates that you work with? How's your model work?
Yeah, at the moment I prefer to work by myself, just because I have been really digging down to become really authentic about how I work, and that shift between becoming what I might call a standard coach, a normal coach, and moving across into transformational coaching has been a really personal journey. And so because of that, I'm still really solidifying what I'm offering my clients and the way that I work, and that's really coming together over the last 6 months or so. It's really clear to me how I work. So I haven't really included other people just yet, but that is something that I'm really hoping to do in the future.
People's perceptions of coaching is so different, isn't it? It's understanding that actually having a coach doesn't mean you've got a problem, or that you're in dire straits or anything like that. Sometimes it's just to help, have somebody there to help move you on and guide you and build that path with you. Is that, do you agree with that, or what's your feelings around others' acceptance of bringing somebody in like yourself?
Yeah, that's a really good point, Helen, actually. And there's a couple of points that you made really well there. One is the clarity about what is a coach, a mentor and a therapist. As I was doing I've done quite a lot of training, and I have done the level 7, the ILM level 7 and the level 5, which is graduate and postgraduate certificates. And as I was researching for the huge amount of writing I had to do in research, I realised that the definitions of those three things, coaching, mentoring and therapy, are blurred. They're blurred within the professionals, the people who've written the books, the fathers and grandfathers of coaching and mentoring and therapy. There's still not concrete clarity there. So it's no surprise to me that people who become coaches, become mentors, become therapists have opposing views. There's lots and lots of grey areas. So I can understand why, if we as coaches, for example, don't have absolute clarity, then I can completely understand why people who choose to work with us really need to have that understanding of what they're bringing into their organisation. And that's one of the things I've focused on so hard over the last year, is to be absolutely clear of what I'm offering the people who work with me. And the second point you made, again, about this idea, quite an old-fashioned idea now, which is if you have a coach, there must be something wrong with you. I often say to people, look at people like Barack Obama, Madonna, David Beckham. They very recently, last year's golf Ryder Cup team, who absolutely trounced the Americans. So much of that was put down to positive mental attitude. The visuals on the walls the coach had, and coaching was mentioned quite a lot at that time. It's really boosting. Why work at 80–85% when you can work at 95%, and hopefully with less stress, less input, less hardship? Why not make it fun and a bit more of a game? And that's what I try for my clients.
I think it's so important, isn't it, for us to have, especially for business owners, if you're a singlepreneur, you're on your own. It's a big world out there, and if you just have somebody else on board to speak to air to share ideas with and evolve them, it makes such a difference to our being, our thinking, our positiveness, because it's so easy to get into a bit of a mode, and I can't do this, I'm hitting a brick wall, I can't move forward, or how do I interact with people when I'm feeling like this? That sort of thing. It's simple things, but it's just knowing that people are around like yourself could make a huge difference.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, Helen. And I think that one of the things that I found the most beneficial to myself for the last at least 3 years, I think I've solidified my networks over the last 3 years. And I now have a close group of people who I absolutely trust. So a few of us get together as a bit of a peer support group, but I also have other friends and colleagues spread around the country who I just connect with. It might be once a month, it might be once every 3 months. And I think it's really, really important for, as you say, solopreneurs, but also any leaders in an organisation to have a clear support network. Some of the the hardest things when I go into certain organisations and seeing the isolation of their leaders, their feelings that they have to get it right first time. There's nobody they can speak to and be authentic with, and that really is a hard one for me because I value these amazing people. When I need that boost of energy, when I need that boost of support, which we all do, it's great to know that you aren't going to put your trust and your faith into somebody and download a little bit, be honest, be a bit vulnerable, and then somebody is too busy or is a bit brusque with you. Actually, I've got some really solid people, and we all support each other, and we know that trust is there. I think trust is such an important thing for people, especially when they're stretching themselves and being vulnerable.
Oh gosh, yes, trust is a very short word, but it's got such massive impact on our lives, hasn't it? And that's one thing I suppose as a coach and others out there who are mentors and so on, trust has to be there first, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I think that I know we've talked before, Helen, in the past, if you trust people and you give your best, if you help people, you just build that trust bank. And what you give out comes back to you. And I think, as you said, it's a short word, and it's something which can be slow to build up, and it's so easy to lose. One action which hurts people, upsets people, and you can undo a lot of good work.
Oh, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about your journey in business. Has it been smooth? Have you had any lumps and bumps that you'd wish to share? And how have you as a person managed and as a business managed to grow to where you are? Because it's not easy out there, is it? It's not easy being in business. So please feel free to share with us.
Yeah, it has for me been a long journey. As a business coach, well, as a coach in business, if you like, I'd say my journey has been about 7 years or so now, although I believe I was doing lots of coaching beforehand, but just not charging, and it's just really what I did as a person. But once I created my business, I think there's been a few things that have been difficult for me. One of those has been, I think it's a lot of pressure for people to grow. You train as a coach. It was very important for me, and it has continued to be important for me to train thoroughly, to be a good coach. I didn't want to just read a book and then stick a sign off the door. And unfortunately, at the moment, it is possible. I believe it's legal still to absolutely do that. But I really have taken a path to push myself through qualifications and extra learning to offer my clients the best service, most varied service I can do. And I think giving myself time to learn whilst I was also being a coach and being clear about what I was offering at the time, whilst I was still learning new skills. And I think there's a real risk to push too fast.
Yeah.
And I think the way forward for me has been to stay smaller, pick some really great clients, and not try and get as many clients as I can, really work well and offer great value to those clients who understand, I may be at 60% now, but by next year I'll have more and more I can offer you. And so I think resisting the pressure to try and be an internet sensation, a guru with hundreds of followers, that's not really my path. But I think I do see new coaches trying to create that. And I think the word that comes to me is authenticity. I think for me, becoming a coach has been a personal journey, and it's been about growing my authentic self. So as we mentioned, the difference between coaching, mentoring and therapy, my journey from being what I might call a standard coach, using the Grow Model, the Wheel of Life, they're great tools. but they really are looking at external, external actions of people. And the main difference I would suggest between transformational coaching and potentially standard coaching is that we focus on the internal state of the client and not their external actions.
Yeah.
Often if I work with a client, there's not a clear goal. What we're looking for is that internal shift, and that is something you can't read a book and learn. That intuition, that gut feeling, which you just can only learn by being out there and doing it. One of the places I train learning to listen up in Wetherby, Yorkshire, works with horses. I'm also a qualified equine facilitator coach, which means working with people with horses as a facilitator. It's amazing. I could do a whole show with you, Helen, purely talking about that. But the process I went through to train in coaching and mentoring using horses as a co-partner, co-facilitator, if you like, meant that I had to work on myself. I really had to ask myself those difficult questions. I was challenged by amazing people on the courses I was on, and Sarah Shearman and also Sarah Redding's the two trainers. It was not an easy 2-year journey. I had to really dig down and investigate myself, because unless we can push ourselves to those places and be clean and really work through our stuff, I don't believe at all that we can do that with our clients. We can't take our clients where we won't go ourselves. So that has been a big thing for me.
It's so true, isn't it? You know, when you're helping others the way that, you know, I do when I work one-to-one with people, and you do, unless you have experienced or been through the process, it's very hard to transfer the knowledge. You know, it's like somebody handing you a book and saying, oh, the cover looks good, but they don't know the content.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think one of the key things I've learned as well as a business person, which I found so difficult during the first few years, was knowing when to say no. And actually, I think that it's still something I challenge myself on. It's still something I consider before I work with a client. Is this the right client for me? Am I the right coach for them? Are our values aligned? Very briefly, I had one of my first clients who was a wonderful teacher. Over the 2 sessions I had with him, he terrified me. And basically he would shout at me down the phone. I was phone coaching then, which I don't do now. He would shout at me down the phone. He wasn't happy to look at his issues, and by the start of the 3rd session I realised I felt quite sick and nervous speaking to him, and it was an epiphany. What am I doing this for? I don't have to do this. And actually I very gently suggested I didn't think I was the right coach and he should look for somebody else who was happy to work in a more perhaps robust manner with him. And he went off perfectly happy with that. And that strength, and it did take strength for me that time to say no and to say this isn't how I want to work, because really that experience has stayed with me, because I know I couldn't give him my best, and I wasn't being fair to myself working under those conditions, which I choose not to do.
Absolutely. You know, we have to do that, because at the end of the day, if we're not comfortable or happy with a situation, we're not going to deliver. And that ultimately not delivering and I hate the word, but, you know, failing at one point has a bigger impact on our businesses personally, as well as, you know, word of mouth wise, than us actually taking control and saying, actually, no, I'm sorry, at this point in time, I'm not the right person for you, but this is who you know could support you, or whatever. It's yeah, I think it's something that we all have to learn. It's very hard, but
yeah, sorry, Helen. I absolutely agree with what you're saying. And I think that what just popped into my head then was also this idea of marketing as a business issue. Marketing is a huge issue for a lot of people, and I know lots of coaches who have stopped coaching because they just couldn't bear the marketing. They got lost in the website, they got lost in the e-shots and all of that stuff we're told we have to do. And one of the things I don't do anymore, I don't really market. I work out who I'd like to work with, or people I feel that might be interested, and I go and speak to those people. And I think it's working with the right people, seeking out the people, having those warm conversations. Personally, I don't believe in cold selling. It doesn't work for me. I have these lovely warm conversations with people who I may have been recommended, or I may have, you know, asked somebody who knows them to introduce me. And I think when you know people have similar values, when you know that they're working in, maybe a school is really trying to expand what they do and make things better for their staff, that's when I would be saying, perhaps I can, well, I know I can help you if you're ready.
Yeah.
To work with people who aren't ready and up for working with me, but at the same time, it's that start of recognising that synergy, which I know is a bit of an overused word, but you just see people and think, yeah, I think we can create something great together.
Do you know what? That is so important and very interesting, because if you think about it, years and years ago, before social media, before the internet, when if you go back to Victorian time, yes, they had their marketing in their little, flyers and things like that, but the way they did business was to meet, was to discuss and connect with people directly. Before they sent out leaflets, they got out there. So, sometimes going back to more organic ways is more powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that although I'm a transformational coach, my main focus is on leadership. I believe that if we can't lead ourselves, then how can we lead other people, whether that's our families, whether it's our friendships, whether it's our place at work, our role at work. And I think, as we've already touched on, it's that authenticity.
Yeah.
You recognise people who are authentic. And again, just to go back to my equine work with the horses, whilst I was at Learning to Listen, that word authenticity is used again and again because the horses are amazing. They're herd animals who follow a leader, and the leader projects leadership energy. So when you are interacting with a horse, it's looking for you to be the leader. Because no animal wants to be the leader. As you know, if you have dogs or cats, animals on the whole don't want to be. It's a stressful position.
They look up to you.
Absolutely. Somebody has to be the leader. That's the natural law. So when you're interacting with the horse, if a person cannot move a horse, then we're looking at their energetic. So often you find leaders who would come to us from multinational companies and they're saying the right words and it maybe moved their people to a certain extent, but the horse would know that there was something wrong here. They would know that the energy wasn't authentic, and so the horse would just ignore them.
Yeah.
And see these people who maybe under control of £1 million budgets, but actually what you're saying up here from your mouth, from your head, from your brain is not matching the energy from your gut. And that's one of the things as people we understand a little bit, but we've forgotten those skills. Leadership is not given when you receive the paycheck. It's something that you earn through your actions and through your energy with the people you interact with.
Absolutely. Do you know what? When you were just saying then about the horse will not react if it won't move forward. I remember very quickly when I was younger, my horse, he was gorgeous, called Noddy. As you do. My teacher at the time decided that I was ready for slightly higher jumps. So we were looking at 2.5, 3 foot, which is not massive, but I was like, yeah, I can do this. And then when it came to the horse going over, he would not go. Yeah. And it wasn't the horse, it was me, because actually inside I was thinking, oh my gosh,
Yes. Exactly, and that's effective. The horse can read you, and the horse says, "Hang on, if you're not willing, if you're nervous, I should be nervous too." And that's the same in a business setting. Some leaders talk about change, talk about radical change, and talk positively about it. But inside, they're nervous. They are maybe even afraid of what might happen with these changes. And that's when the people around them start to think, even subconsciously, especially subconsciously, I don't know why, but I'm nervous. You're nervous. I'm nervous. And people say everything was fine until this happened, and then people have changed. The energy has changed, and that's when we start drilling down and looking at that. I just find it absolutely fascinating. I think people are amazing, amazing creatures, and when we do dig down a little bit and look at how we are today, and then link it back into how that could be in the past, what's concerning us about the future. A lot of coaches stay mainly in the present and the future. I think it's a real power in shifting between those three time spaces. I just think it's really enables people. But again, as a coach, if I didn't feel confident and safe to take those people, support them, stand at their side while they go to these places which may scare them, which may make them anxious, then I couldn't do my job either.
No, absolutely, absolutely. We have to be in the right zone, in the right mode, to be able to help others. So yeah, I fully agree. We are very, very powerful beings. We just need to learn and understand that and know how to tap into it.
Definitely, definitely. And I think one of the things I just wanted to just say, so I don't forget, because I think it's so important, is this concept of ego as well. I think for coaches especially, but in any relationship, I think this idea of equality, we're all equals, whether you are a cleaner, whether you are the middle management, whether you are the complete executive principal, maybe the trust of 100 schools. We are all equal. The roles we fulfill in different organisations may be different, but keeping that humility and keeping that equality is a thing that I think sets apart great leaders from good leaders. And they're the people that their companies want to follow them. But, they have a love and a belief. People follow great leaders. They're not bought. They're not paid for. And I think that's managing people's ego. Okay, you have worked hard. You've got yourself to the top of the tree, but I often see that communication breakdown between people at the very top and people at the very bottom roles of an organisation.
Yeah.
And I think that ego is something that all of us could just look at, how we judge ourselves and others against us.
Absolutely. You cannot have this is me and that's you in any organisation. You have to work as a whole and portray the right messages and teams. I could go on for ages here.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, that's another show, isn't it?
And the other thing, just as you're talking now, the other thing that's popped into my head that is such a fault of what I do is honesty. Is pushing people to be honest, because although nobody sets out to not tell the truth, to tell lies, if you will, but they're also in our current culture doesn't seem to be an acceptance of speaking honestly. And having those really honest conversations and being able to say, do you know, I really respect you, but I don't actually agree with what you're saying there. Or maybe saying, I hear what you're saying, but I don't feel that's right for you. Can we just explore that a bit more deeply? Can we look at that a bit more? We have seemed to have this veneer of either perfection, I know everything, or not rocking the boat. And in a lot of organisations, that honesty has been maybe not lost, but maybe pushed down. And I think that robust, that lovely robustness of being able to say, hang on, let's name the elephant in the room, and being able to, so many people are frightened to do that, and they're not sure what people will say to them. Will they be, verbally attacked, which still happens today.
Oh, it does. It still happens. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's in going back to my corporate times, that so many people were so scared to say anything because they didn't want to be shouted at.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
was just going to say, you just come back to that. How can we, on one hand, encourage people to speak honestly if our culture is still that people can be shouted at? And that's one of the things I focus on as a transformational coach. I believe that the culture comes first. There's no point changing one or two individuals and working with them if the culture of an organisation is not open and honest. It's okay to be abusive in any way. I just think the best way for me to get results for organisations has definitely been starting with the culture and making it okay to have those honest conversations and those positively critical conversations, which I think are so beneficial, but people seem to be afraid of. What happens if I say, I don't agree with the way we do things, I don't agree with the way that this is done? It's okay to say things in a non-personal way, even though it may affect certain individuals. I think that culture is so overlooked, and people focus on people. We love that connection, but as a whole, standing back and looking at the whole organisation and what the culture, both the written culture and also the unspoken culture, what is allowed, what's allowed that we don't write down but we expect when we go in, or we can get away with. What's our worst side that no one says anything? They're deep-hitting questions and they're tough for a lot of organisations. And as I said to you earlier, not all organisations are ready to have those conversations. But the ones that are on an amazing journey.
And that's the thing, isn't it? We focus on the one, when people are ready, they'll come forward. And those that are on the journey, then, wow, watch out and see them grow is fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, it's a privilege. When people do start to step into their power in that way. It is a real powerful place, and it's not just empowering people at the top, it's empowering every single person in the organisation to have a voice, to take on personal responsibility for making their work lives a more positive, more productive space. And when that starts to happen, it's just a privilege to be there. It's completely magical, and that really is why I do what I do, because I just am amazed by people in those situations. It's just such a privilege.
I know we've covered quite a few tips and things within our chat, but just very quickly, can you highlight just three top tips that you can share with other business owners out there, entrepreneurs, just to sort of help them on their way?
Yeah, definitely. I think the first thing I would suggest is be really, really clear about what you offer. Even just saying, I'm a coach, I think these days that just doesn't cut it. We need to be absolutely clear about what type of coach we are, what benefits we're offering, and how we're going to create that. I think that knowing yourself and your product, first of all, is essential. I think secondly, and this might sound a strange one to suggest, but after talking to lots and lots of people, look at the finances. Really, really look at your finances, and first of all ask yourself, is this a viable business? If I want to work with business owners who work on tropical islands who only have £1 million, is that really going to work from Yorkshire? I might struggle with that. Be really clear that you have a product that is going to take off. Don't waste your time and energy on something very obscure unless you have a master plan. And also make sure you've invoiced. So many people I say, oh, I forgot what to charge for that. It seems crazy, but just keep an eye on the finances. And I think my final thing would be contracting. It's something I work a lot with my clients on, is the contract. Exactly what are we doing? Exactly why are we doing it? Exactly how will we measure our success? What will we do if things go wrong? I really can't stress enough. I just think contracting is such a huge thing. And let's talk about those difficult things before they arise. We know we can't cover everything, but if something goes wrong, what will we do? What can we expect? So I think there are three things which if you start with, you're well on your way. And hopefully to the best parts of business, the best experiences.
Do you know what? I love those tips, and the strange thing is that the last one, the contract, is something that I've not actually had from all the other interviews that I've done so far. Isn't it interesting? So this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, is so because we all have so much different experiences and things like that. So perfect. Thank you so much, Emmy. Now listen, how can people get hold of you? What's your Twitter handle and your website?
Yes, I'm on Twitter as Emmy Yeadon, which is EMMYYEADON. My website is www.emmyyeadon.com, and I would love to hear from people. If anybody has any questions or would like to chat some more, that would be absolutely lovely.
Fantastic. Well, listen, I know we're going to have you back soon to chat some more on what you offer, because I know you're working on something just at the moment, but we shall share with everybody when you're ready, because I know it's going to be really good. But thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Emmy.
I've enjoyed it hugely. Thank you so much for inviting me, Helen.
You're welcome, and thank you so much as well to everybody listening in today. I'll be back shortly with another interview. Goodbye.